Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the book review. Alright my friends, welcome to another recommendation video. And this one is for kind of an oddly specific thing. And this video was actually requested by Hannah quite a while ago. It has been on my list. It's actually in my notebook from last year. You guys, I share this. I always have notebooks that have my ideas in them. And this one I was first looking into quite a while ago. It's very early on in the notebook and I just never got it filled yet. And then by the time I did get it filled, I was filming all my end of the year content, and so blah blah blah, I just didn't get to it. And today is the day. So this is Feral Sunshine, and this is kind of a unique term. This isn't anything super specific that an author will label their characters as always. Sometimes it is, but it is a term that I like to use to describe when we have a reverse grumpy sunshine. So usually it's like man is grumpy, female is sunshine. So it's reverse. So it is a grumpy heroine and a sunshine hero, but he's feral in that this is either taking place in like a dark romance situation, or not like, it's taking place in a dark romance situation, right? Where there's not a lot of room to be sunshine, but there's just something about this guy that he's overly positive, or he's very sure their relationship is going to work out, or he's going to force you into that relationship with him. Different aspects we will go through as we go through these books. So I have a list of 10 heroes that I think are feral sunshine heroes, and I will have them linked down below, and we're going to go through and talk about them real quick here. So I'm going to try not to go into full deep dive mode on each of these characters, since I'm not talking about a part of the plot when we're categorizing this. I'm talking about like a personality type of the hero, so I'm going to try to keep it a little more vague than I normally do. Also because I already filmed a video that was super long today and I need one to be a little bit quicker for me. But I also do have notes over here, so don't mind me. One of the things that is kind of an issue is that because I started this list like 8 months ago, some of the books on the list I kind of forgot why. Because anyway, something I say about this, like when I get an idea for this, I start a page in my book, and as I get those recommendations, like as I read them, as I get enough of them, I will fill it up, right? And so that's something I try to remind people who recommend a, because I have a video recommendation form that's in my description, and sometimes someone will recommend a video idea every like month or so, right? Because I can see that. I can see when the exact same thing gets put in, right? Sometimes it's multiple people just wanting it, but sometimes it's the same person who is, just getting impatient that I haven't talked about it yet. And I'm not throwing shade at anyone who's doing that. There are things that I want creators to do for me too that they don't get to. But I just want to remind people that just because I don't get to your video idea within the next business month, it's not because I ignored it. It's often because I don't have enough books yet. I like to have at least 7 to 10 if I'm going to make a dedicated video. And sometimes it's really hard to find that many recommendations. Like, it took me a very long time to be able to make a, what was one that I finally did? Of course, now it went completely out of my head, but there was one that I was waiting a long time to be able to make that rec video. And I have ones right now that I've started lists for them, but they're not complete yet. So they do get put in my notebook, and just because I don't get to it, it isn't because I'm ignoring it. Some of them I ignore, some of them I've already made 2 or 3 of that, and so I won't be making another one. But in general, don't be discouraged. And you also don't have to recommend it 50 times, because if you put it in there, I've seen it. I see every single one that goes in there. I clean out ones I've already done. I highlight ones I want to do. And this is one of those. So anyway, 5 minutes of rambling about that. I just wanted to say to Hannah, who recommended this, I saw you, girl, and I was just waiting for the time. And today's your day. Today's your day. We're going to get through these. So starting at the top of this, let's start with God of Ruin by Rena Kent. Now, I knew that one of the books in the Legacy of the Gods series would be on here, because there are a few of her men that I feel like fit this category. But specifically, I think Landon fits it the best because of a few parts of his character. Number one, he is chaos personified. He is a absolute deviant. He likes to cause problems for everyone. He likes to get his nose into stuff. He likes to stir up shit. And when Mia catches his eye, he just wants to pluck and poke and prod at her. And when, you know, when they start interacting with each other, she is an enemy of his and she like wants to bring him down. And he just thinks that's kind of cute that she wants to do that. And there's just some very interesting interactions that they have. And Mina is actually mute. She is selective mutism. There is a trauma in her past that caused her to go mute. And she very much, is still a very fierce character, but she uses sign language to communicate a lot. And pretty much immediately Landon is like upset that, well, not upset, but curious that she's able to talk with the people without him knowing what she's saying. And so what does he do? He immediately goes and learns sign language so that he can understand what she's saying, which, I mean, that's like basic respectability to do for someone who needs to use sign language to communicate. However, Landon does it to be a little shit. And I will say one thing, I find it, as someone who took sign language for 2.5 years when I was in college and has lost most of it at this point, I always find it a bit like jealousy inducing that an author's like, well, he's a genius, so he could just watch a few hours of it and he'll remember every single sign. And I just get a little bit annoyed with that, but that's okay. So anyway, his interactions with Mia, I see him very much as a feral sunshine because he's always positive that he's going to make things work the way he wants to. Now, there's going to be some really hot and kinky stuff involved in some of the things they end up doing because they start really experimenting and trying to find the things that they both like. And I love those types of stories as well. So yes, of all of Rena Kent's men in The Legacy of the Gods, I think that Landon fits it the best. I think so. And here's the thing. I think at times Nico is close as well. I think he is also close at times, but in my opinion, like he's going through some ups and downs with it. I think Landon is a feral sunshine throughout it. It does make it very interesting when there's times where Landon and Nico go up against each other, but for the most part, I think that Landon is the one. Next up, there is Her Way by Nikki Harris. And this is book 3 in the Kids of the District. And I actually read this book for my Patreon last year in May, actually. I can't believe it's that long ago. And in this character, or in this one, this is actually like Australian mafia, kind of. Bronson and Shoshana. And they actually have a second chance romance in this one. And the way that he inserts himself back into her life and is like, no, we lost our chance before. We're not going to lose it again. And the way that he just completely like doesn't give her any other option, that they're going to be together now. It's time that they be together and everything. And I just loved seeing that. I loved it so much. There are a lot of really intense things in this one for sure, but I just really love how she tries to push him away and he just is not going to let it happen now that they're adults and now that he is a bit more, you know, in control of himself and in control of his life. He's really going to make it happen for the both of them. I will say definitely check the trigger warnings for this one. Now, again, I know I'm talking about all of these are dark romances, and that should go without saying, you should, but I don't want to spoil a thing in this one unless you want to read it. So, but definitely check the trigger warnings for this one. Nikki Harris does a really good job of listing all of them on her website. So, Okay, next there is one that I've read a bit more recently, and that was actually King of the Cage. And this one was actually the book that I was like, you know what? He fits into the Feral Sunshine. I really need to finish that list. So you can thank this book for kicking me in the booty and getting me to finish off this list. So King of the Cage is the start of a new series from Mila Kane. It's called The Devil's Own, but it does connect with other books by hers like Unholy Vows and some of her other mafia books. They all kind of connect in different ways. And specifically, this one begins at the wedding of Renato, who is in Unholy Vows. And this one is actually the Irish meets the Italian mafia. And we have our hero here, what's his name here? Bran. And he is invited to this wedding kind of to represent his family, and they're trying to have peace with the Italians, actually. So he is at the wedding, and they're at the reception for this. And Giada, who is an Italian mafia princess, she is being kind of pursued by this other guy who is just a complete, like, ew, she doesn't want him. So she actually goes up to Bran, sits on his lap, and pretends that they're there together. And Bran, who's just had this hot, sexy woman just sit in his lap, is like, wow, I think that I'm gonna claim this girl as my own. So much so that when some of the Italian, like, shitheads try to pick a fight with Bran, he's like, do you want me to fight for you? And she's like, I mean, I guess you better. And then he tells her, he's like, if I fight this guy, I want you to be waiting for me naked, and I'm going to take my reward for beating the shit out of him. And so she's like, oh yeah, hotshot. Yeah, that's really going to happen. And he goes off to fight the guy, and she's just like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Well, he tracks her down later and is like, I think you owe me something, princess. And eventually there's actually so there's those interactions are happening. Like, he's already, like, zeroed in on her, wants to be with her, he's hot for her, it's great. Well, then there's a few, like, interesting things that happen to both of them. He has a family member who gets into a rough place. She was, like, drugged, and Giada has someone who actually gets drugged in her place. Someone was trying to drug her, and her friend, like, took her drink instead. And turns out Giada is actually a hacker. She's not just some simpering mafia princess. Not that you would have believed she was up to this point anyway. And these two things that happen to both Bran and Giada lead them to kind of the same place. And that place is staring down the barrel of a secret society that is pretty fucking twisted. And they end up having to pretend to be a couple to infiltrate this secret society. So, and in all of that, I definitely see Bran as being the overly positive, absolutely feral type of hero. Okay, then we have a quick little one right here, but I wanted to include this because I had a great time with it. This is Devouring of Men by Nikki St. Croix, and in this one, I actually listened to an audio of this one. And in this one, I would say that Rock is actually the, like, Feral Sunshine in here. This one is actually going to be an MMF. This story is not done yet. This story also connects with the, like, Lost Boys series as well. But in the beginning of this one, we have Rock and Hook are trying to hunt down Wendy Darling. And she is in kind of a dangerous position. Now Rock represents kind of like the crocodile, and Hook, of course, is Captain Hook. And they have always been enemies, but now they need to work together to rescue Wendy. And it turns out that Rock has always been very attracted to Hook, and, you know, he kind of makes it clear that they don't have to fight over Wendy. They could have her together. Now, what Wendy's going to end up feeling about that, when we get to it, we shall see. But I did enjoy listening to this one a lot, and I definitely thought that Rock was a Feral Sunshine in the relationship. Okay, then there was a very dark one, and I'm telling you, this one was fucking dark, okay? There was this novella I read around Halloween called UnHollowed, and this one is 0.5 in the Heathen series by Shea Ruby. So this one is actually kind of a prequel to what she is going to have coming, okay? I myself don't even know if I'll continue. I'll probably continue because I was shook by this book. So this one is going to be another MMF, I believe. Currently, there is one scene of it being MMF in here, but currently it's more of like a love triangle. But there is a scene where they share together. This one also involves a secret society, and this one involves these two men who are actually a part of a cult. Well, I would say cult over secret society for sure, because there was a lot of blood and gore in here. There was a wild ceremony that involved murdering like virgins. Like, I'm not even kidding. This was intense. And there was a forced marriage where the heroine thought she was marrying one guy and ends up married to the other one. And the secret society cult isn't going to let her like divorce from the one guy who like tricked her into it. And this is where, like I said, it's starting as kind of a love triangle, because the one man thought he was going to be marrying the girl, and that's who she wanted to marry. And then she was forced to marry this other guy. And so now she's supposed to just be okay and have to be with the guy she was married to. And she's like, fuck no. And so there's this fighting that's happening now. And by the end of this prequel, the one couple will be on the run from the one guy. So I know that's being super vague. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to spoil the entire thing. But we get enough of hot stuff happening between them in this one to really get you set up. But there are so many trigger warnings in here. But at the same time, I'm still super intrigued to see what this author is going to do with all of this, because it was so nuts. I like can't help but be curious about what's going down. So anyway, that is what that one is about. And I suggest you proceed with caution. That's all I will say about that. Okay, then we have a mafia called Devious Kingpin by Eva Winters. And this book is book 2 in the Kingpins of the Syndicate. This one also involves kind of a forced marriage situation. And our hero, Dante, really wants Juliet. And she is just like, I don't want to be with you. I'm not interested. Don't want to be with you. And he actually finds a way to kind of force her into marrying him. Now, what he doesn't know is that she has some trauma reasons why the way he forces her to marry him was a very bad move. Okay, it was a very bad move that he made, and he's going to spend a lot of the book trying to make it up to her. But for a good chunk of this book, he's just so like positive that like, girl, we're going to work out. Like, just chill. Like, we're meant to be. It's going to be fine. And again, he doesn't quite know what he did and how badly he's fucked things up, but he will. He will learn, and he will grovel, and he will have to make it up to her. But yeah, again, lots of trigger warnings in this one as well. Okay, then I actually have a fan fiction to share, and this was one of my favorite fan fictions I read in 2024, and this one is called Bloody, Slutty, and Pathetic. And this was by What Murdaugh, I think is the person. Yeah, and this one is, it's a very long one, but this one has a like forced marriage as well. And it has a Draco who's a little bit self-loathing and very much obsessed with Hermione, and very much wants her to punish him in certain ways. And when they first get married, Hermione absolutely hates him. She would rather kill him than be with him. But she discovers that a curse that Bellatrix Lestrange put on her is actually causing her to slowly kind of like die from this curse. And if Draco's blood gets on this injury, which it is the like mud blood scar that is carved into her, it's actually a curse in this one. And Draco's blood can actually heal it. And so if she has regular doses of his blood, she will be healed from it. And he kind of makes her a trade that if you will, you know, play some of these sexy games with me, I will give you my blood. And so he does use that as leverage a bit. But he's also so obsessed with her, and he doesn't want her to realize how obsessed he is with her, because he knows that it makes him look pathetic. but he's a slut for her and he can't help it, and it's really cool to watch it happen. I always do like to mention too that in this one of the like side couples is actually Panville. It's Pansy and Neville, and it is magnificent. It's one of the best like side couples that I've ever read in a book. It's just done really, really well. Okay, then there is Soul of a Witch by Harley LaRue, and this one absolutely has to be on there. These characters are absolutely bonker. Well, the hero is anyway. His name is Callum, and he's a demon, and he's been waiting very patiently for Everly to find him. He knows that she's his mate. He knows that he's supposed to be with her, and Everly is actually a character that I was very curious about while I was reading the trilogy, because she's actually a daughter of the family who is kind of like our villains in the previous books. Like, they are trying to sacrifice women to like demons in earlier books, and Everly doesn't want anything to do with that, especially because she has always thought that her father had something to do with her mother's death. And so when she finds herself in a very dangerous position, she ends up kind of being transported to a safe place. And in this place is where Callum has been waiting for her. There is this house that kind of has the spirits of her ancestors living in it. I believe I'm explaining this right. Yes. There is a magic house in the woods, and it has creatures and ghosts that she is trying to like learn to be able to use against her family and everything to get revenge for what's happened. But Callum, he's been waiting there for her, and he very much makes himself known to her and available to her and tells her that they're mates and all of these things. So he's very overwhelming to her, especially someone who in the beginning of this, she's very much been beaten down and abused by her family. And so now to have this like literally feral demon who is at her beck and call and wants to help her, it's a lot. And as Harley LaRue does, there is lots of spicy, sexy things that happen in here. There's some pegging, there's some piercings, there's lots of knife play and blood play and all of these things. But at the heart of it, I just really love this series from hers because I really like the magic and the demons in here and stuff too. But I would say Callum fits the Feral Sunshine tag for sure. Okay, then there is actually one last one that I want to share, and this is actually Hydis by Amara Ray. Now, it's difficult for me to recommend this series anymore because it is very clear at this point that it will never be finished. I can still pray, I can still hope. Now, each book in the series still has standalone potential, but let's be honest, you will want to read it in order. You should start with Lifeblood, and the first 5 books of the series are out. We have never finished out the series. It's never been finished out. I don't know what happened. Truly, this is an author who's remained, like, her identity has remained unknown, so I don't know if something happened to her or what went on. So anyway, I don't mean to be a downer about that, but the reason why I'm so sad is I love this series. So particularly, I think you can read like 1, 2, 3, 4 and like be okay. If you read 5 though, you're really going to want 6, and I don't know if and when we'll ever get it. I hope and pray we do someday. I really hope we do, because I feel like she had such great plans. I've actually interviewed Amara Ray on my channel before, and I really liked her. But in this one, we have King Finn, who is the leader of the which court is he? Sorry. He's a blood fae. He's the Blood King. And Finrador is his name. And then we have Naya, who is the head of the coven. And they have enemies on all fronts, this witch coven does. And so hybrids aren't supposed to exist. And so we have to work twice as hard to survive their enemies. And all these witches are hybrids. They're either part shifter, part fae, or part, there's one other thing, or part angel, I think it is. Anyway, they're very much despised for that. And so they have a coven that's made up of all of them. And Naya ends up getting in a sticky situation when the Blood King wants to use her against the Winter King. And she is the daughter of the Winter King, I believe. And so she also discovers that she is his mate. And so there's an oracle that tells him to kill the Winter Queen. He needs to claim his mate and harness their power together. And so basically, like, they need to have a child together. And now the thing is, Finn wants to use Naya as basically a broodmare to do this work, to get the heir that he needs. But he would never make her his queen because she's, you know, of the Winter Fae or whatever. So she's the savage little crazy thing, he says, and so he takes her as his mate, and he's going to try to make her his. And oh boy, does he go absolutely wild in trying to do that. Like, he is absolutely bonkers. And Naya, who's absolutely a grumpy in this grumpy Feral Sunshine pairing, is just like, doesn't know what to do with this crazy, crazy man. So Finn is, he's absolutely nuts. I love it so much, but also he's so crazy. So, okay, so there we go. Those are some Feral Sunshine recommendations I have for you. I know this is kind of a more obscure one, but let me know some that you have. I'm sure people watching would love for some more recommendations, so definitely leave those in the comments. But again, I'll have links to all of these books listed. If you want to snag it over on Amazon, definitely do that. And we will see you in the next video. Bye.